Hi, my name is Areeba, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Ever King by L.J. Andrews. Before we get into that, basically, the Carmel Public Library was having a special Valentine's Day event for the month of February, and it was a blind date with a book. And, we have a little visitor. But anyway, you would get a completely mysterious book. It was wrapped up with bows and stickers and hearts. It was super cute, and it would be a surprise. I am not a person who usually reads romance, and so I was really excited to pick this up to sort of dip my toes into a whole nother world of literature. But I do want to start off by saying this is a very book talk book. If you know what that is, then you know what I'm saying. But I'm not here to be rude or mean or demeaning, but this is a review. Okay, so Libya is an earth fae and princess heir to the Northern Kingdom, and at the very beginning of the book we start off with a flashback to when Libya is around 14 years old, and Eric, he's described to be just a couple years older, so maybe 17, but basically Libya's father, the king, he held Eric hostage, and he's in a prison cell, like in the dungeons of their kingdom, and this is where their friendship starts to blossom. It's very interesting because the main driving factor of this is curiosity, which makes sense. That's the root of pretty much all, I feel like. But throughout the book there was no real connection between the two, and I'll get into that. Anyway, basically she sneaks out to meet him, and she tells him stories to boost his morale while he's being held hostage by her father, and that's the flashback. Okay, spoiler alert, but as she tells him these stories when they're young, he sort of becomes very obsessed with her and like infatuated in a way that really doesn't make sense at all. Like, I can understand feeling some appreciation for someone coming to visit you when you're locked up, but it really wasn't that often. And okay, that's besides the point. But fast forward a couple years, maybe like 10. Libya is around 22, Eric's however like 4 or 5 years older than that. And at this point in the book, we're maybe 10 pages in. Immediately, we meet maybe 12 different people. Just boom, 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 boom. Like, no breaks, nothing. We meet Libya's best friend, her brother, her father, her mother, her uncles, this girl she does like, and just other background. I'm not even kidding. So many characters in like 5 pages. It makes no sense. It is so confusing, and I could not finish the book. Like, everything that happens in this book is very like, this happened and this and this and then later that. It's very heavy on telling you instead of showing you, and especially lacking the explaining part. Things just sort of happen in this book and the reader has to deal with it. Like, for example, immediately after we meet all of the people in Libya's life, a Crimson Festival starts to happen, and basically it's a celebration that commemorates peace after this huge long conflict between the Earth Fae and the Sea Fae. And basically the Sea Fae are kind of like the bad people. They didn't really mess with them. They're like cast away. And there's this chasm, which is a barrier that divides the two with like strong magic. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but when they were younger and Libya used to visit Eric, she would tell him stories and whatnot, but also she had this talisman, which is sort of like pendant necklace thing in her possession that belonged to Eric's father, and apparently it's magical. It just is. We don't really know why, but she ends up tripping and the talisman sort of like takes a mark on her. It becomes a tattoo somewhere on her body, and its magic is now embedded into her. How that works, we don't know. It just does. And then at the Crimson Festival, Livia and all her friends are having fun out on the beach, and something just calls to her, and it's like, come to the water, like right now. And she's like, okay, voice, like let me listen to you. And she goes into the water to touch the chasm, which is, as I mentioned before, the barrier that separates the Earth Fae and the Sea Fae. And she touches the barrier, and like a shock goes through her body, and basically the magic that was in Eric's father's necklace went into the chasm, and it broke the barrier, and now the Sea Fae are able to enter the Earth Fae territory. Why? We don't know. It's never explained. And right as she touches the chasm, Eric, he's king now, if I didn't mention that, of the Sea Fae, he also gets like a tingle up his arm or whatever, and he's like, oh my god, the chasm is broken. I'm not really sure how his father's necklace's magic connects them both if nothing is embedded inside of him. There are a lot of plot holes in this book, and I keep saying this, but nothing really makes sense. And in this very same night, Eric and his crew, they break through the chasm and they find the kingdom that Livia's in, enter the castle, and join the party, and it's a masquerade ball, conveniently. And he ends up enticing Olivia into a room by herself, and he kidnaps her. Yay! So here is where I want to mention one very big problem I have with this book particularly, is that it is a dark romance. And if you don't know what dark romance is, it's pretty much all the popular dark romance books are assault. Like, that's pretty much what it is. And at the very beginning of this book, there is a very long content warning list. And I'll insert a picture of this, but just one of the things is mutilation. This is meant to be romance. Like, let's be serious. And basically, while Livia is kidnapped, there are many references to her being potentially attacked by either Eric himself or any of the men on his crew, and nothing about that screams romance to me. I understand it's meant to be an enemies to lovers, but that's disgusting. Like, that's disgusting. This is the point in the book where I had to put it down, and I could not carry on. Nothing about that is appealing to me. Like, violence against women, that's not romance. I don't know why I have to say that out loud, but that's where I had to stop. And that's not even like that's awful, of course, but the main thing that made me put this book down was the writing style. And, you know, I like to read, but I'm not a super fanatic about books. Like, I'm not super picky, but there were so many errors in this book, so many misspellings, and the repetition of a sentence would be used on one page and then it would be used again in the same page, maybe like one paragraph later, and not even in a stylistic way. It just was used again. And I just can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I am convinced that LJ Andrews skimped out and did not hire an editor for this book, because that is how bad the writing is. I'm sorry, LJ Andrews. If you see this, I'm not sorry. Why would you ever write this? I think my main gripe with this book is that our main female character, Olivia, she is very painfully underdeveloped. I felt that she had no depth to her character at all, for all of the characters really, but there seems to be an epidemic in book talk, romantasy books in particular, where the main female character is always portrayed as this very sassy, independent, determined young woman who can get whatever she wants because she's so beautiful and persuasive. And you know, in a enemies to lovers book, that would have been, you know, fun to read if the character had any substance to them. Livia, I felt, it may be because I did not finish the book, but I felt that I didn't know who she was or what she wanted or what her ambitions were. There was nothing about her that was like, this is Livia, this is the main character. Like, it might as well have just been like a side character who you get like a glimpse of in passing in the hallway in a high school TV show. I knew nothing about her, and I could say the same for Eric. All we knew of him was that he wanted revenge against Livia's father and that he found Livia attractive. That was pretty much the entire book, them hating each other but also wanting to be together. It just doesn't make sense. And enemies to lovers could have worked if they were actually enemies. They claim to hate each other, and they should, because he's evil, he is not a good man at all. But you know, maybe like within time, maybe he could have like been nice, and I really feel like nothing could have redeemed him, but maybe in her eyes he could have been nice and been like, hey, let's be friends. Despite all the fighting and the drama, that's pretty much it, really. I was very bored while reading this book, and it didn't really make sense to me at all. Nothing about it made sense. And before I end this review, I want to show you a picture that is within the first few. Oh, this is a map of the kingdom, which is always nice. But that's another thing. The world building was very flawed. There were just too many plot holes. I found this interesting. It's not bad art, I'll say that. But if you are ever reading a book and you see a link to a Spotify playlist or art, put it down immediately. That's all I have to say. With this review, I really hope I'm not coming off as pretentious or a know-it-all. I enjoy reading, but I really don't read all that much. But this book, you're better off just leaving it on the shelf. I'm sorry, L.J. Andrews, but nothing can save this. The Ever King, not worth it. My official review of this is a 1. It's a 1. So alongside the book, I got this nice little bookmark and this little information card. And I think we know which one I'm going to circle.